evening. Our top story this week. In Florida, a Miami Herald investigation sets off the system sucks based on the claim that 477 kids have died while under CPS watch in the last 5 years. Florida DCF, of course, is making all kinds of excuses for the failures, including blaming their own lawyers for stifling their investigations by not petitioning judges to snatch kids or force the parents into services because they didn't think there was enough evidence. But the system sucks are not only blaming the state's child welfare officials, but Florida's policy of family preservation based on the logic that had they snatched more of these kids, they may or may not still be alive today. Unlike a little baby who died in a Jacksonville foster home the other day, or Nubia Barahona, who was murdered by her adoptive parents a few years back, or Gabriel Myers, who hung himself at age 7 after being drugged through the teeth while in Florida's foster care system. However, state lawmakers are now vowing to tackle the problem, although they probably don't have a clue as to what to do. But no worries, because Florida's CPS boss is now admitting that the kids deserve better, saying that she knows what to do, which of course would require more services and more money to fix the mess. In Massachusetts this week, a judge who was expected to rule on who gets custody of a girl named Justina Pelletier last Tuesday decides to wait until next Tuesday instead, while the mistreatment and neglect of the girl continues. And the father goes on the Dr. Phil show, where Dr. Phil assumes that the allegations made by the hospital are true and calls for an investigation into the family to prove otherwise. Meanwhile, other Massachusetts family members are complaining that the child protective industry didn't share details about a child abuse probe into the daycare where a kid who was molested in a foster home played a game with little kids which involved them touching him inappropriately. And Massachusetts frontline CPS agents send out an open letter claiming that the state CPS boss, Olga the Roach, doesn't know or understand what's really going on in the field. In Arizona, the state Senate doesn't want to give Governor Jan Brewer all the money she wants for her new child welfare agency, even though a new analysis is showing soaring caseloads for Arizona CPS agents. In South Carolina, the feds are probing an alleged cover-up where the child protective industry was told to soften their investigation into failures to protect Governor Nikki Haley from looking bad, and a South Carolina state senator calls for new leadership at the agency in light of these recent allegations and testimony. In California, immigration officials bust a group who is trying to reunite with their families by trying to get back into the United States, thus sending American anchor babies to CPS in San Diego and undocumented children to a family detention center in Pennsylvania. In Connecticut, guardian ad litems are withdrawing from cases before they get caught up in their own scandals due to upcoming family law reforms and growing complaints against them on internet websites. In Georgia, legislators failed to pass a bill that would have privatized most of the state's child welfare services. And in Kentucky, a judge rules that the child protective industry must pay the newspaper's legal fees to the tune of $301,000 for refusing to share the information about the deaths or near deaths of children in the state. In Nebraska, foster parents are accusing the child protective industry for not sharing necessary medical information about the kids in their homes. In New York, CPS agents can now spy on a parent's social media usage in order to dig for dirt to be used as evidence to support the snatching of your children. And in Michigan, you can lose your job if you get put on the state secret list of suspected child abusers, even if it's done without proof or due process. In China, it is revealed that kindergartens in 3 provinces have been accused of administering antiviral drugs to children in order to boost attendance and revenue. A Chinese city suspends a safe haven baby hatch where parents could safely and anonymously abandon their children after it is overwhelmed by unwanted babies, which, as it turns out, 98% of these babies who are abandoned nowadays are from impoverished parents who can't afford to deal with the kids' disabilities. And in South Africa, a social worker pleads guilty to multiple sexual offenses against children. In Canada, the British Columbia's children's watchdog says that the teenager's suicide is a sign that the child welfare system is in utter chaos. In Alberta, a foster mother gets away with murdering a toddler in her care. And the Child and Family Services way up north in Nunavut is still found lacking, saying that the government hasn't made enough progress since an audit found significant problems back in 2011. In Australia, an idea is being considered which would use a kinship care system instead of forced adoption for Aboriginal kids, while many Australian parents are complaining that the official government forced adoption apology that took place last year just isn't enough to help or kill the pain. In England, police hunt for a mother who snatched her baby back from a foster home, but they're recaptured after finding the baby safe and sound in his mother's care. A Portuguese couple is arrested in the UK for conspiring to abduct their own kids back from social care. There has been a new wave of sex abuse allegations from British men who went to private schools when they were kids, which has been prompted by the publicity surrounding the high number of public figures being caught in sex abuse scandals. A British mother is speaking out about her ordeal after being forced to give her daughter up for adoption back in the 1960s. A British British judge rules that social workers' assessment of a father who wanted to care for his child after the mother was deported was unfair and inadequate. And British journalist Christopher Booker calls social workers who snatch children, quote, one of the most disturbing human rights scandals of our time, end quote. In Arizona, a foster parent was arrested for child abuse after a toddler suffered permanent brain damage. In California, a Los Angeles County CPS agent is arrested for allegedly having sex with a 7-year-old girl who he was supposed to be protecting. California CPS agents snatch a baby from medical marijuana patients, saying that they don't care if they can legally smoke it or not. And in Oklahoma, a CPS agent and her supervisor are facing criminal charges for failing to protect after a special needs teenager died while under their watch. In New York, a father who was paralyzed in a shooting is still searching for his son who disappeared from his foster home back in 2010. In Wisconsin, a baby in foster care dies after his real mom noticed something wrong during a visit, although nobody knows why or how the kid died. 2 Arizona CPS agents are fired after it is found that their resumes contain false or incomplete information. In Florida, a CPS agent who was supposed to be protecting a kid decided to take the kid home instead and fight the parents for custody. And finally, tonight, an adopted Haitian girl is claiming that she was rehomed after she made sexual abuse allegations against an adoptive parent who is now serving time for child porn. For these stories and all the latest dirt on the child protective industry, visit www.legallykidnapped.com. And until next week, this is Baby LK. Over and out.